Hi, everyone. My name is Shawn Jones, and I'm the CEO of the iNETrepreneur Network. And today I'm really excited because I have a woman who is so incredible. She works with a lot of different businesses, a lot of different clients. She's very passionate about her field of interest, and she's also one of our author contributors in our Art of Connection book. She's also an expert panelist in our upcoming Art of Connection Summit. And I have with me Kenyatta Turner. Kenyatta, thank you so much for being here today.
Hey, Shawn, thanks for having me. This is fun. I appreciate an opportunity to chat with you and get to know you better through this conversation too. Thank you.
Absolutely. I have to say, when I saw your package being delivered, and of course, you're like I am, you're all over social media and you want to share your wins, because sometimes as entrepreneurs, we feel like we need to hide our wins, but not you. You were in all your glory. You had that package being opened and it was incredible. And what I've noticed is you're not just like that when you get your pieces of mail that come in that have gifts and surprises in them, but you seem to be like that all the time. And I am always relationship first, business second. Yeah. Kenyatta, well, I know who you are and what you're doing to help the world. I'd love to know more about your backstory. I mean, where did you start out and how did you get to where you're at today?
Sure, absolutely. And I love to share because I believe that our stories make us who we are, and they're very important, to give that information so people can get a little insight, into who they're speaking with. But I am a lover of life. Like, I am a lover of life, and why that's so important to me. And you might hear people say that and they mean one thing, but I'll be very specific when I say this, is that my story, short story, I spent 20 plus years running colleges. I started working at DeVry University when I was 18 years old, doing administrative work. And I woke up 13 years later and I was still there. And then I worked at other colleges around there. So my background is higher education, executive leadership. That's what I literally grew up doing. But it was really pivotal in my life when I was about to turn the age 39. My birthday is April 5th. I just turned 46. Okay. So it's very important to note why I'm mentioning those dates. But when I was about to turn 39, I was thinking about my father, who had passed away when he was 39. 39 is very young. But to a 16-year-old, which is how old I was when he passed, it seemed very old. I didn't think I'd make it that long. But when I found myself coming up on that birthday, Shawn, I really started doing a lot of soul searching and reflecting. I really started thinking about my dad and all the things that he didn't get an opportunity to do, even though I had no idea what he would have wanted to do. But I had asked myself those questions. What do you want to do, Kenyatta? You're about to turn 39. It looks like you might make it. So if that's the case, what do you want to do? Are you going to, I felt like I was getting extra time that he didn't get. And I literally made a decision right then and right there that I would no longer squander 1 hour, 1 minute, 1 year of my life. I would live every single moment to the fullest with joy and appreciation and gratitude. I felt like I had to do that to honor him because he doesn't get a chance to do that, but I'm still here. So I don't waste it. And that's where you get that joy out of me. I feel I open up every envelope like that. You're right. Because I feel like I have extra innings. And so that's where I started. And so that moment when I drew that line in the sand, that my birthday was April 5th and I turned 39, and it was May 6th when I quit my job and handed in my notice and left the corporate industry of higher education and decided to be an entrepreneur and build my own empire. I didn't know what I was going to do, had no idea what the job was or even the business was, but I had gotten something under my skin that it itched me. I had to leave, and I literally jumped off a cliff and sprouted wings. That's what happened.
That is incredible. I can relate to the being an entrepreneur. I started when I was 8 years old. I'm in my mid 40s, just celebrated 44 years. Cool. And it's just something that just itched. I've tried working for, in corporate America, but it's like in my blood. And what a beautiful start to say that your dad inspired you. I mean, it is those aha moments
Yes.
that really direct where we're going to be. I mean, you can still have been in higher education and you've taken and harnessed what you've learned.
And here's something interesting. My dad inspired me in that way to make that change because again, I was wondering, was he happy? Was he doing what he wanted to do? Was he living his best life? Did he love his job? Right? I couldn't answer those questions for him. And I was concerned about my own answers to those questions. Right? So I called my mother when I had this revelation. I said, Mom, who's always been an entrepreneur, I've never known her to work a job. Okay. Called her up and said, Mom, I think I'm going to quit my job and start a business. And she says, it's about time. I was just waiting. I just knew one day you would call me up and say that. And I'm like, really? So he inspired me in one way. She inspired me in another way. Right. So I had the support, I feel like, of both my parents in that moment.
That is incredible. I love your story. I too come from a family where the women are the entrepreneurs, multiple generations. And but with us having kids, we do tell our kids, you can be whatever you want. You don't have to follow in our footsteps. And maybe they will go off and work for someone, and maybe they may just automatically go into entrepreneurialhood. So now you own Freedom Empire Consulting. I know you have a lot of different irons. Tell us what you do.
Absolutely. So I'm the founder and CEO of Freedom Empire Consulting. And my tagline is I coach, influence, and protect. So why coach? Well, I'm a behavioral superpowers coach. You'll probably hear me say that phrase a lot. I help people to decode human behavior, to optimize their performance, and then to enhance relationships. And we do that using validated behavioral insights. We really, truly can help people understand and answer the question, who am I? From the inside out, because what we know is that how you do anything is how you do everything. And so as a coach, I work with individuals, group coaching, training, mentoring. That's what I do. And I love it. Influence is because there are 10 behavioral superpowers, Shawn, and one of them is called an influencer. That happens to be my style. I'm an influencer. That's why I put that on the thing. But so is my mom. Right. And it's very interesting. My sister is a facilitator, right? Those are behavioral styles. So it made sense that influence be one of the words of my tagline, because that is who I am and that is what I do. I'm an outgoing, fast-paced influencer at that. Next is protect. So I like to say I help my clients to build their freedom empires and shield their freedom empires. And empire could be a physical thing or it's a mindset. And most often it truly is a mindset. But when it comes to your businesses, your family, the legacies that you're building, you have to protect it. You need access to legal services and identity theft protection. And I do that through Legal Shield. So I'm a partner with them and I've been with Legal Shield for going on 7 years now. I use the services, I share them with my clients. Absolutely, I am Legal Shield for life. And then Dream Smart Academy is the company that is basically I'm a partner with, that we are building this behavioral superpowers universe. I'm actually their, what is the title that Jeff gave me? Their Chief Behavioral Superpowers Officer. I also serve on the National Advisory Board for the charter school that we're starting here in Arizona. And it is a behaviorally based charter school where we literally are changing the way that the students will learn by making sure that they understand their behavior and their behavioral style, which is also their learning style. So those are some of the things I've got my hands in. It sounds like a long list and it truly isn't, but in some aspects it is, because it's broad, but all focused on behavior, because I know that that's where it absolutely starts. And when I understood that about myself, I learned to unleash that part of me, which then ultimately made me unstoppable.
Wow. I resonate with the behaviors. Human behavior is just fascinating to me. Anything that has to do with the mind and what we do, what we say, how do we interact? Right. And once you start to look at people and understand them, we all have, like I call it, we put on our face, we put on our super capes, whatever. Below all of that is truly who we are. And we only sometimes, if we don't know people, we don't let them really see us. But if you look close enough, you can see the cues. And when you pick up on those cues of the human behavior, you have a better understanding of that person on that deeper level. You know how to talk, you know how to connect with them.
Right.
And that's what you're doing. And I love your academy. And of course, anything dealing with kids is right up my alley. So I think we were cut from the same cloth on many levels, Kenyatta.
Yeah.
Legal Shield, I will just say Legal Shield is a necessity. It's not a matter of should I or do I want to. It's I need it because identity theft happens every day. It happens to anyone. I mean, it doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter your gender, your ethnicity.
Absolutely.
Cyber crimes are on an all-time high. Everybody's going digital.
Yes. And the
And it
identity
opens you
they're
right up.
waiting. They're waiting in the wings for us. You know.
They are. You know, in 1 week, I've already had three businesses say that their websites have been hacked and they can't get on. In 1 week, 3 companies, and these aren't small companies either. And so it really makes you stop and look at how can we better protect ourselves?
Right.
Now,
Well,
when you talk about,
go ahead. Well, I was
no,
just
go
going to say,
ahead.
if you're going to take the time to build these empires, to build these businesses, you have to take the time to protect them. All the work that we put, blood, sweat, and tears that we put into our businesses, you know, and our families and our legacies, that we've got to put some things in place to do the best we can to protect what we're working so hard to build. So I truly believe that. So you're absolutely right, Shawn.
Yes. Now, with Freedom Empire, I understand that you consult, but can you share with us specifically what are you consulting? How are you helping the businesses?
Sure. So a couple different things. So as far as the services that I can offer through Freedom Empire Consulting, for instance, I love masterminds. So I coach and offer a couple of masterminds that people can apply for, which are great because typically they're 12-week long group coaching, behavioral coaching, along with whatever the topic is or the resource that we're using or reading. So for instance, I have a mastermind called Behave and Grow Rich for women, where we read Think and Grow Rich and Think and Grow Rich for women. And I have a curriculum that I coach them through, or the 12-week year, things like that. So I offer services in that realm, but I also do one-on-one coaching. And it really just depends on what the client needs. Because for instance, I have a client who really wanted to get a deeper level of understanding of her behavior. And with one 15-minute exercise, I can tell someone what their behavior is and some high-level info, but there's 40 other reports that I have access to. We measure almost 500 data points. It's endless, quite honestly. So it really depends on what the client needs. So for instance, right now we're working on some projects specifically for teens and young adults, doing workshops for them called Superpower Meet, where we help them understand what their leadership styles are, what their communication styles are. So whether it be, I like to say we have behavioral superpower dimensions. In the business world, you might call them verticals. Dimensions is a much more fun word to me. So dimensions include enterprise solutions for organizations, classroom management, workforce development, relationship management. We literally work in all of those spaces. So when I sit down and have a conversation with someone, either an individual or a large company, it's about what is it that you're looking for. Sometimes a company is looking for performance management, or they're looking for team development or a retreat, or they're looking just to, get past the forming, storming, norming, performing. They want to get to performing, but they're in the storming, right now. DEI and B, right? Having those difficult conversations, it comes with self-awareness and values and understanding who you are. So it really does depend on what that client needs. We know that our wheel can support them starting with behavior. So any kind of product or service or workshop, an event or one-on-one, that's what we work to provide for our clients.
Now, when you look at working with a client, do you offer like a consult? If so, what does that process look like?
Absolutely. So the first step would be that we would have them take the behavioral superpowers assessment, right? They would need to understand what it is we do first to understand if it's for them or not. Then we sit down and we basically have an uncovering session with them so that they can understand how to read the data that they just got. You can read it yourself, but the uncovering session really is where the power lies. And then from there, the unleashing process happens, or the brainstorming process happens. Because sometimes once we do that with a company, so for instance, one company we just did it with their board, right? Now that we did a group uncovering with them, everyone knows who everyone is. Everyone knows probably a lot more they knew about each other before that. And now we can come back together and brainstorm about, where do you want to start? That's where the consulting comes in, because once we have an idea of what the company's looking for, what their challenges are, we can recommend what we can do, customize and a la carte really, to figure out how to help them. So that's what that consulting process looks like.
Wow, that is really in depth for getting that understanding. So it sounds like you really take the time to get to know and understand your potential clients and show them what you can do and see if it's an overall fit. Yes. Now, when somebody is calling around or researching companies to work with for the kind of services that you offer, there's a lot of different companies out there. What questions should they be asking when they're interviewing companies like Freedom Empire Consulting?
Absolutely. So and I'll start with what a difference between what we do with behavior with other companies that may do something similar. So you can put us in the family of personality assessments and personality tests like Myers-Briggs, Kolbe, Berkman's, Enneagram, so on and so forth, DISC. What each of those platforms do is they measure a certain level of a person's personality or habits and things in that way, right? Oftentimes, you can take those exercises and answer the questions in such a way to elicit a certain type of response, a certain type of profile. Some of them actually recommend that you take those profiles multiple times over the course of your life because things will change and it'll be able to measure things differently. That's what we're not. What we are is we measure behavior. We measure something that's hardwired innately in you as early as the age of 3 in your amygdala. That doesn't change over time. And that's what we measure. So actually, when someone takes our exercise, they don't need to take it ever again, unless, I'll be very clear, let's say they're about 12 years old. That's the youngest age someone can take it. We'll have them take it when they're 12, have them take it one more time when they're 18. And after that, they'll never need to take it again. That's the clear difference. So when the people are looking for personality tests and things like that, they're going to find those other companies that I mentioned, which are fantastic because they do very well what they do. But then they're going to see us and go, wait a minute, I don't need to take this again. Or wait a minute, how do I change this behavior? Right? Well, and that's the trick, because this is their baseline. Behavior is hard to change. That's the point. So we're telling people, this is where you are. This is where you are. Now we teach you situational awareness so you know how to unleash your superpowers or beware of your kryptonite, because it's there too. Right? So we focus on those. So when people are looking for something for their company, their organization, they're going to want to look for something that's sustainable. We don't just show up for a little workshop for a half-day lunch and say, hey, here's your personality styles. This is great. See ya. No, we ingrain and work this into the fiber of the organization. It becomes a cultural change and an ecosystem change. Everyone puts their power on their Zoom, information, because it now becomes the method and the language of that organization. So if you're looking for something like that, that's what we do. We're not like a one and done type of situation. We're not. we're in there. We're there to stay.
I didn't realize that our behaviors are really marked starting at age 3. I mean,
Yes.
It starts that young. I mean, because I look at it, we're still developing, but yes, it does make sense starting at age 3. Kids.
You mentioned that you've always been an entrepreneur since the age of 8, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have entrepreneurial behavioral styles and a way of thinking that, if you have children, right? You said you had children. How many?
Yes. 2 of my own and 4 with my husband.
Okay, lots of children pick this example from, but the ones that you've known from when they were very small, like your own, right? Your children have things that they do now that they did then. from 2 and 3 years old, certain mannerisms, correct? Maybe one
Correct.
really tidy and likes to organize all their toys, and the other one probably just throws them on the floor, right? As an example, right? They've always been
Yes.
that. And of course, one can learn to put their toys in the toy box, and one can learn to maybe be a little more spontaneous. But that's a learned behavior. That's not natural instinctive behavior. And that's what we measure, that instinctive